Starting out with Excel for beginners, then what you're first going to view when you open up Excel is this sheet here. And this is going to give you any previous documents that you've opened up within Excel. It's going to give you the blank workbook that we can work on here. And it's also going to give you some templates that Excel has along the top here. You also have the options of being able to search for any documents that you want. But for us, for starting out, we're just going to click onto the blank workbook and open that up there. Once we open the blank workbook, then you should see all of this coming up onto your screen. And this here is known as what's the sheet. And these are the cells within the sheet. So you can see all these little rectangular shapes here. These are known as cells. And up at the top here, you can see a load of letters. These are known as columns. And when you click into the column, you can see that it will highlight the whole column. And the numbers down at the side here are what are known as rows. So you can see here that you've got all the numbers from 1 to 10 and so on and so on. And if we click into a particular cell, we can see that the column and the row got a little bit dark grey, and they also get a little green underline to highlight that we are in cell E8. So we always say the column first and then we say the row. We also know this because we can look up here and we can see within the name box our cell is there, and it shows us that we are looking at cell E8. You have the option of clicking into this and renaming that specific cell if you want to do, but for now, we're just going to keep this exactly the same. If you want to zoom in and out, so say you've got something that you want to move, we can go down here to the bottom right corner and you have to zoom in and you have to zoom out. You can also hold the control and zoom in with your mouse wheel and zoom back out as well, depending on how big or small you want that to be. We're going to start entering some data, and we can say that we're going to click into cell A1 up at the top here, and all we have to do is just type into our data exactly what we want. So we're just wanting sales there, and into the second part here, we're going to type in the date. And if you want to move across the cells, you can just hit the tab or the right arrow button. And if you want to move down a cell, you can press the down arrow or you can press the enter button. Once we've entered this here, then we're just going to type in a date of January 2024 and we can press enter there. And you can see that Excel's automatically formatted that there to have a little dash within between the January and the 24. What we can also do at this point is, rather than entering all the data, Excel's really clever and we can click into the cell there and it knows that we have entered date. So we can go to this corner here where we see the green dot and we can drag that down, and you can see down at the side there that we get the December 24 as a little prompt, and we can release that there and Excel will automatically give us the dates there from January down to February. So now I'm just going to enter some number values into the cells and I'll come back to you at that point. So when we're looking at this data here, one thing that we want to know and understand are the thousand separators, and some of these could be a little bit complicated, especially when we get down to 10,000 down here. So what we could do is just click and select all of the cells that we want here, and on the home tab that we have, we can go across and we can see here that we have the 1000 separator, and we can click into that, and now we can see that that's just added in the 1000 separator. So we have the comma and we have a dot, but for us we only sell whole cases, so we know that we're never going to get any of these pence down here. But what we can do is we can just change that. So again, onto the home tab and onto the number, we can decrease decimal place, and we can see that that's dropped that down there for us. If you have anything where you need to increase that, it works in the opposite way, so you can increase it. But for us, we just need to decrease at that point there. So rather than clicking up into the home tabs as well, what we can do is, once we have the cells selected that we want, we can use the control shortcut of control and 1. And what that's going to do is bring up the format cells for us here, and we can see exactly how we want to format the cells. So we can see that we have the separator, and you can increase the decimal places and decrease them as well. It's also going to give you a little sample up here showing you exactly what it's going to come out as. So just one to bear in mind there, but for us, we'll just press cancel for now. So if we want to add any notes to these informations that we have, so we can see that we have the sales and dates, but if we want to add notes, say up at the top here, what we can do is then we can add our note. Once we've added our note, then we can see that this doesn't fit within this column here. So column C is being overlapped and it goes into D and a little bit of E. So what we can do here is you can go in between the C and the D, and you have the ability to drag the column over, like so, making it however you need to do. But a little bit of a quicker way is you can double click onto that and make that to the right width of what you need. You can also select multiple ones at the same time, double clicking, and it's going to work on that. And say you have quite a lot of information, if you hold the control and A to select all, then you're able to double click, and what that's going to do is that'll just format your whole worksheet for you, making that to the right width of what you need to do. So what we can do then, say that we want to get rid of a particular column at this point, so say that we no longer need the notes. So once we've selected the column, we can then right click onto it and we get all these options here. And for us, we can delete it, but say we just don't want to delete it immediately, we can hide that column there, and we can see there that that's zoomed in a little bit there for us, and it's just squished up the C column between the B and the D. And what we can do is just highlight the B and the D at that point, right click again, and we can go to the unhide part there. So that'll just get rid of it, and then we can move it around. But if we want to do, we can just right click onto the column C and click delete. So while we're looking at our data here, what we can also say is, say we want to move our data over, so we want to have the date before we have the sales, we can select the column B that we have holding the shift button, and we can see that we get this 4-pointed arrow at this point here. What we can do from here is just click and drag it over, and you can see how the line there goes a little bit darker between the numbers and the sales. At that point, we can just release it, and that there is going to just move the date before over for you. And just make sure that you're holding that shift key as you move that over, otherwise it'll just copy the data on top of that point there. So when you have your data like this, it can look a little bit confusing as it's all just white space and numbers all in a one. So you need to add a little bits of colour and break it out a little bit. And the way we can do this is just quickly selecting our data like so. And we can go up to the top part here and the ribbon and click in the insert part. And we're going to click in insert a table. We can see that it's given us the range of what it's going to highlight there and turn into a table, and we get the little box around it so that we also know that this is right. We can see that the table has headers as we have the date and the sales, and we can just click OK at that point. There we can see that it's breaking out our table really well, and it's just given us these different colours in between. Once you have a table, you can see that you're going to get an extra tab called Table Design up at the top here. And you'll be able to just click into this and you can change your table however you want it in terms of colours and just make it stand out for whatever you would like to do. When we're in this table format as well, we also have options within this. So we have the table style options, and we can just add a total row. So that at the bottom there is just going to add a total for us. And within this, if we click into it, we can see that we have all these different options of adding it. So we can count the numbers so we know that we've got 12. Or we could just add the sum in there, which is what we want, and we can see the total sum of the sales. So it's really quick and easy for us. So at this point, once you have the table, then you can just click into a specific cell, right click onto the row that you want, and we can click the insert button there. And we can see that that's just moved down one, and it's going to give us the options of just moving it down again. And we can see that this automatically moves into the next month for us. So once we have this, we could then say we want to add in specific sales for that month, and we can see that this automatically adds it up for us. We can see that we get this error though, which is all the hashtags at the top here. And this basically just means that the information isn't fitting within the column width. So we can just double click onto the column again, and we can see there how that would just add in for us. So even within your data at this point, while it's in the table, you can make this stand out a little bit more. And the way we can do this is just selecting the information that we have here. And we can now go up to the home tab. So we have the home tab selected up here, and we want to use this conditional formatting. Clicking into conditional formatting, we can see that we get all these different rules. So we have greater than, less than, we have data bars, color scales, icons, and you have the ability to, once you start to understand Excel more, start to write your own rules. But for us, we're just going to use color scales, and just quickly clicking into that there, we can see that that's now changed all of our colors, and we can see which ones are our better months and which ones are our worst months really easily just by understanding the colours there within the table. Understanding parts of our data is really essential when you're working with an Excel, and the way that we can do this is just clicking onto it. And you can see by clicking into it down in the status bar down here, you have quite a lot of information that you have. So we have the sum, the max, the mins, the number of data that we have, and the averages within that. If you want to edit this at any point, you can right click onto the status bar, and you can see that you have all these different options of things that you can add and take away depending on what it is you want to work on within your Excel sheet. So what we can also work on then is we can click onto the home, and we can go to the analyze data part, and there we have it. So Excel is going to start to break it out. So we can see we've got January, February, March, and now we have the options of inserting pivot tables. So it's really quickly and easily just use the analyze data like that. If you don't want to go through that though, and you just want to start adding stuff up yourself, then we can press the equals sign. Add anything in Excel, kind of formula wise, we'll always start with the equal sign. You can then click into the specific cell that you want. So we're going to look at cell B2. We can then add the plus. You have the options of the minus, the divide, and also the times. So, but for us, we're just going to click with the plus. We'll add B3, and then we'll add B4 and to the bottom there. And we can see now that that's just added it all up, giving us the total of 11,867 for us. Although that's great and all, we want to be able to do this a little bit quicker within our data. So we can press the equals, and we're going to understand functions. And at this point, we can press the sum function, because what we're doing is typing in the function directly, and we can see that it gives us a load of options here. But once we get to this point, we know that we want to highlight the sum. So we can press the tab button, and this is going to give us that opening parentheses there, and it's asking us now for what's called an argument, and it's number 1. So the number 1 that we're going to select is the first 3 cells, like so, B2 to B4, and we can press enter at that point. It gives us the exact same because it works as the exact same, and we don't have to be adding in all of the plus signs. Within Excel, you have lots of different formulas up at the formula tab here, and you have some of the popular formulas that are available here, and then lots of different ones within these as well. So just make sure you start to understand these, and as you understand a lot more of Excel's formulas, then more of these will become available and make it better for data analysis for you. So while we've been working in Excel, we can see that we have these 2 little boxes here up at the top, and these are the filters within our table. So while we're working in these, then we also have the option of going to the data tab, and within the data tab, then you can see that the filter there is already highlighted. So we can take that on and off depending on how you want to work with them. But for us, within our data, we can click into the data there, and we can see that it gives us the options of selecting and deselecting. We can also sort them at this point here by largest to smallest. So if we sort them, then we can see that all of them will move and add up there. Because we've already selected our formula rows down here, so it's just the first 3 rows that we can see there, we can see that the sums will automatically change as well there. And if we want to revert this back to how we were before, we can just go from oldest to newest, and we can see that that will just revert it back really quickly. Within our dates as well, what we want to do is if we just select all, just unselect it at that point, and we have the options of just selecting January, February, March. We can then press the OK button, and we can see that that will select it down, just showing us the information that we want. So for the January, February, March, and we have the sales within B there. And when we've done that, then when we click into that, and we can then clear the filter, and that's just going to get it back and revert our data back to how it was originally. So when you're looking at your data like this, it can be quite confusing as there is quite a lot of different numbers and they can all merge into one. So one way of being able to break this out a little bit is moving it from a tabular format like we have here into more of a visual. And what we can do this is we can select the data that we have, we can go to the insert tab, and now we can go to the insert a chart here. And we can see that we get some recommended charts, or we can choose a specific chart that we might want here. But for us, we'll just tick on the recommended charts here, and we can see that it's brought up different types. We have the line chart here, and this will work great because we can see the months at the bottom, and we can see how the sales go throughout the month. So once we have that highlighted, we can press the OK button, and now that's just going to insert that line chart for us into our data. And we can see really easily there how this will work out, and we can see our sales throughout the year as it goes up and down. Once you've selected your data as well, you also have the option of working on chart styles. So up at the top here, once your chart is selected, you can go for quick styles, and we can just add these in really quickly, and you can see how these will just change the look of your chart throughout that. You can also change the colors depending on how you want that to look really easily, and the data points that you have there. So while we've been looking at this then, and we've been looking at graphs, another way that we can analyze our data is working on something called pivot tables. So we can click within our data that we have here, and we can click on the insert, and we're going to insert a pivot table. And when we click onto the pivot table, we can see that it's given us a range of table 1, and we're going to add it into a new worksheet. So we can click OK at this point, and we can see that it's added it in there. So we've got our pivot table, and we have our 2 points of data there. So we can go and we can just select a point now, and we can move it into these columns here. And when we've selected these sales and we've moved it into the values, what this is going to do is analyze the total value of our sales at this point. So once you've done this, then one cool way of being able to quickly analyze your data is if we just zoom in, then we can click onto our data at this point, and we can right click. Once you right click into this, you can say that you want to summarize, and we want to say the average. And we can see that we get the average throughout the year. So we know that within an average month, we're selling at £8,208.75. Or we can just right click again, and we can go back to the summarize, and we can just click on the sum there, just so we revert it back. So what we can do at this point then is we can get the date, and we can move this down into the filter part. We can see that this is just added on another little filter as we had before, and we can just click into it, and by clicking into it, you can select the specific month that you want really easily and just get that. So if you have quite a lot of data within your things, then that's how you can quickly move between the months and see it. And if you want to remove something at any point, then you can just click into it from the filter part here, and moving it to the side, you can see that you get a little X that we move it out. So we can just let go of it at that point, and it'll remove it out for us. We can also then select the date, move it down to the rows, and now we can see at this point here that it's just given us all the different rows, and it's given us a breakdown of the sum of sales for them specific months. One great thing about pivot tables as well is we can also click onto our sum of sales and we can right click here. We can also go show the values as, and we can see here we've got lots of different options. And we want to say show it as a percentage of the grand total. And we can see here now a breakdown really quickly and easily of all the percentages. And we can see that for January, which is just 1% of our total sales, where for December, we're working up at 23.88. And, it just gives you a really good understanding of pivot tables and how to use them. So if you have any questions at this point, then don't forget to ask us, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.